What's up, guys? Mike here, back with another video, and we're not going to talk about the draft today. You clicked on the video, you know what we're talking about. Last year, a lot of discussion was created amongst two rookie quarterbacks. And it wasn't the two rookie quarterbacks that everyone thought we were going to be talking about. Everyone thought that we were going to be talking about Jared Goff and Carson Wentz and which one was better going forward. Unfortunately, Jared Goff had to be coached by Jeff Fisher, and that was kind of fucked from the start. However, one guy kind of came out of nowhere, and that would be Dak Prescott. And because what makes this even more intriguing is going forward, I think we do have a nice QB rivalry because there's so many people that are on Team Dak and so many people that are on Team Carson. Now, I'm an Eagles fan. You would think that I'm on Team Carson. And we're going to find out which team I'm actually on. However, I'm not going to just say that one's better than the other, clearly, because there is no real way to know. There's no way to know if we swap the teams, which one would be better, because they're not in similar situations whatsoever. One has an absolutely loaded offense around him. One had really a very weak offense around them. One had a really good season, one had a mediocre season. We're going to actually look at who is better going forward between Dak and Carson. And the criteria for today is that we're looking at one, where I had them coming out, which is not very important. It's just something that adds to the discussion. 2, rookie stats. Because there are some people that look at stats and will automatically assume one is better than the other. 3, rookie success. 4, the system and the talent around them. So what I mean by system is the type of offense that they run, the type of talent they've obviously got around them, and the coaching staff. And 5, the ceiling. Now, that's 5 categories. First one of 3 is going to be who is the better out of the two. Not exactly the greatest thing, but hey, fuck it. That's really the only way I could think about how to separate two quarterbacks that, in my opinion, are very, very close to each other. So let's get into this. First off, draft ranking. Now, back in the 2016 draft, my number 1 quarterback was Jared Goff. My number 2 quarterback was Paxton Lynch. My number 3 quarterback was Carson Wentz. Dak Prescott was still someone that was very high on my rankings. He was in my top 100 players. He was my number 5 quarterback. So, looking at that, I was with the majority that thought that Carson Wentz was going to be better than Dak Prescott. And there were a lot of reasons for that. 1, he had the size that I liked. Prescott reminded me a little bit too much of Tebow. And I don't like being reminded of Tebow. I hated Tebow with a passion. And I was worried that Prescott was going to be another version of Tebow, so I wasn't as high on him. I also really didn't like his tape as much at Mississippi State. I thought he'd be a good swing starter. Someone where if you needed him in a pinch, he could fill in for a couple of games, but I didn't really think he was going to be a starter. How wrong was I? Wentz, I saw a little bit more of. I wasn't willing to be like Mike Mayock and say he's a mix of Cam Newton and Andrew Luck, because that's fucking ridiculous. He wasn't. He was a kid that had attempted like 300 passes in his career. Started 16 games. Just not enough for me to really go off of. My point being, I thought that the upside with Wentz, because he would be in a pro system and didn't have a lot of of mechanical flaws and everything like that. I thought that he had the better chance going forward than Prescott. So there you go. Like everyone else, I thought that Carson Wentz was going to be better than Dak Prescott. Now, let's go to the rookie stats. Let's start with Prescott first. Prescott started all 16 games after filling in for Romo. Wentz did as well. Prescott had a completion percentage of 67.8%. Averaged 28 attempts per game, which was actually really surprising to me. I didn't think he threw the ball as much as he actually did. For just under 3,700 yards, 229 yards a game, 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. 4 interceptions, 23 touchdowns. Very good touchdown-interception ratio. Was sacked 25 times, had a QB rating of 104.9. Looking at Carson Wentz's numbers, it is a shit show. Completion percentage is 62.4, which is still pretty good. It's decent. 37 attempts per game, almost 38. 3,782 yards, 236 per game. So he's got more per more per game, more yards, 16 touchdowns. Not great, but not terrible. 14 interceptions though. When your interception to touchdown ratio is almost 1-to-1, not good. Had weaker offensive line play. 33 times he was sacked. QB rating of 79.3. I think it's pretty easy to say that Dak wins that one. Just far and away a better season than Carson Wentz. And that's going to get into this third category, which is rookie success. Dak took a team that no one expected without Romo was going to be as good as they were, and he brought them to the number one seed in the fucking division, in the fucking NFC last year, and that is impressive. What did they end up going? They ended up losing 3 games. They went 13-3. Best team in the NFC, but a one and done. Carson Wentz started 3-0. They got off to a much better start than the Cowboys did. However, they fell apart and went 8-8. I think we can give Dak that one as well. Now, a lot of that goes into part number 4. System and the talent around them. Let's first off take a look at coaching. Jason Garrett has been a head coach for almost a decade now. He's been, a very reliable coach. He doesn't really have a lot of down seasons. The Dallas Cowboys generally, when it came down to Week 17, were in the division hunt, except for the year where they, where Romo went down before they got Dak, and they had nothing, and they ended up picking in the top 4. But generally, when Romo and Garrett were together, they were competing every single Week 17 for a division title. Doug Peterson was in his first year. Andy Reid decided, the Eagles basically went back to having Andy Reid as a head coach. And they did okay. They did okay under that, but I don't think that that's the right system for Wentz to be in, quite frankly. Now, what else was the system, that helped Dak? Was the talent around him. He had a very good offensive line. Actually, very good. He has the best offensive line in the league in front of him with Tyron Smith, La'el Collins, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, and they had one weak link on that offensive line as Doug Free. That was it. That was fucking it. They killed it everywhere else on that offensive line. He had still a very reliable tight end in the NFL in Jason Witten, who, despite being 475 years old, is still one of the better tight ends in the NFL. He's never going to wow you with impressive numbers like some of these other guys, but he's a very good blocking tight end, and he's a very good receiving tight end. He has one of the top 10 receivers in the NFL in Dez Bryant. Terrence Williams is an adequate number 2 or number 3. Cole Beasley had a very good season. And he also had Ezekiel Elliott behind him. Ezekiel Elliott plus best offensive line possibly in NFL history equals very good season for the Dallas Cowboys. Dak didn't have to do as much, if we're being completely honest. He really didn't have to throw the ball 37 times or whatever, or as much as Carson Wentz would have had to, because he had so many other weapons around him that could take the pressure off of him. What did Wentz have around him? A mediocre offensive line. If we're being really polite about it, it was a mediocre offensive line. His best receiving target was Jordan Matthews. His tight end is Zach Ertz. His running back is Ryan Matthews. Clear divide in talent there. So I think that's where a lot of this debate gets stumped, is because we go, oh, well, Dak had the better season because yada, 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 yada. They are not in very similar systems. And that's when you get, well, if we switched from one to the other, that's where this whole mess gets convoluted. And you know what? As much as I say that it's convoluted, let's actually be realistic. I think that if you switched them, and let's say that Prescott was an Eagle and Carson Wentz was a Cowboy, would I think that the exact same thing would have happened? No, I don't think that Carson Wentz would have won the Rookie of the Year, because Prescott was further along in his development to begin with anyways, because Wentz sat for 2 years and was, he missed some time, and he was at a Division I AA school, he was at an FCS school at North Dakota State, so obviously he wasn't playing similar type talent. Dak Prescott was at the SEC and was a starter for 3 or 4 years. Both senior quarterbacks coming out, both had very good showings at the Senior Bowl. I still think that of the two, I would probably have gone with Dak to have the better season in Philly, because I think Dak learned from the time in Mississippi State to create better than Wentz would have at a lower level school. I think that the Cowboys probably would have still had the better record, but I think Prescott may have had the better season. So there is that. So I will actually say that the scheme fit, it still goes to Dak Prescott because of, again, the talent around him and everything like that. And then we'll go into the ceiling. Ceiling is 10 years from now, who's going to be better? And I think that the answer is still Dak Prescott. Because there's one thing that factors into the ceiling. Still goes into number 4, talent around them and the scheme fit. If Dak continues to go, to trend upward, continues to have the same type of season he had last year going forward, still has Ezekiel Elliott behind him, they're keeping that offensive line very, very well paid so that there is no issue going forward. Dez keeps everything up. They've now got Ryan Switzer. They've got more weapons. They're going to eventually have to replace Jason Witten, but I'm sure they're going to be able to do that. The Eagles, we still got Ryan Matthews at running back. We've got Donnell Pumphrey, who's the same as Ryan Matthews. We've got Darren Sproles, who's the same as Ryan Matthews. We've got Torrey Smith on a 1-year deal. Alshon Jeffrey on a 1-year deal. We've got these potential, receivers that can make anything, but nothing concrete. We still don't have a good offensive line, which means that Wentz is still going to have to do the same old shit. And to be honest, I don't think that Wentz really deserved to be that highly picked anyways. I think if we're looking at when they were picked, I would have easily taken Dak Prescott, first, couple of picks of the 4th round. I had him in my top 90. He was easily a mid to late, mid to late round 3 pick for me. Carson Wentz, all things considered, was a late 1st round pick in my opinion. Early 2nd round. I don't think he was worth that pick. And I think if we're looking at value, I think that the Cowboys definitely did get more value out of it. And going forward, like I said, ceiling, that Dallas offense is going to be a juggernaut for years because they've got a dominant offensive line, they've got a dominant running back, and they've got a good young quarterback that's just able to, I don't want to say manage the game because game manager is such a taboo phrase to run, but he really does manage the game well. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he makes very smart passing decisions. Carson Wentz was supposed to be that, but it's had to be forced into a role he's not comfortable with. He would fit very well in Dallas' system. He does not fit very well in Philly's. So, look at the scoreboard. Prescott 4, Wentz 1. Eagles fans, come at me, but let's face it, Prescott's better.